In 1993, the parent corporation of the world's most famous children's entertainment center issued a quiet, heavily classified mandate. Regional managers were instructed to completely incinerate all first-generation animatronic figures. They were not to be sold. They were not to be stored. The official reason cited in the corporate memo was a hazardous defect in the pneumatic fluid system, but leaked audio logs from overnight graveyard shift workers reveal a much darker reality. The machines weren't leaking fluid. They were completely rejecting their programming. These are 5 highly classified, terrifying encounters from the night shift. Once you hear what they locked in the back rooms, you will never look at those stages the same way again. In the winter of 1996, a regional animatronic technician named Marcus was dispatched to a failing branch in rural Ohio. The store manager had filed 7 emergency maintenance requests in a single week. The main stage characters were allegedly activating entirely on their own after the store was locked down at midnight. Marcus arrived at 2 a.m. The restaurant was dead silent, illuminated only by the faint, dying glow of the arcade cabinets in the back corner. He began his standard diagnostic test on the keyboard player. The standard procedure was to manually disengage the air compressors before opening the chest cavity. As Marcus peeled back the heavy, matted fursuit to access the motherboard, he noticed something fundamentally wrong with the pneumatic tubes. The air pressure lines were completely filled with a thick, dark crimson fluid. It was viscous, pulsing slowly through the clear plastic tubing, like a heartbeat. Marcus dropped his wrench in shock. The heavy metal hit the wooden stage floor. Instantly, the pneumatic hissing stopped. The animatronic dog did not reset to its default position. Instead, its massive, heavy head slowly turned 90 degrees, looking directly down at the terrified mechanic. The pre-recorded cheerful audio tracks did not play. Instead, the internal speaker emitted a low, wet, agonizing gargling sound. It raised one heavy, fur-stripped hand, the metal joints grinding together, and pointed a single, rusted finger toward the pitch-black kitchen doors. The warped, distorted voice from the speaker managed to form 4 clear words. It is still hungry. The kitchen doors violently crashed open on their own. Marcus didn't wait to see what was in the dark. He left his tools, abandoned his truck, and never returned to the state. Story 2. The massive, colorful plastic tube mazes suspended above the dining room floor were a staple of the franchise in the late 90s. But for the night cleaning crews, they were an absolute nightmare. Cleaning the suffocating, claustrophobic plastic tunnels at 3 in the morning was a job nobody wanted. In 1998, an overnight janitor named David was mopping the primary party zone directly beneath the largest section of the tubes. At exactly 3:15 a.m., the absolute silence of the restaurant was broken by the sound of heavy, dragging friction coming from the plastic tunnels directly above his head. David assumed a homeless person had broken in and climbed into the maze to sleep. He grabbed his flashlight and shined it through the transparent plastic section of the tube. What he saw crawling through the narrow tunnel was not human. It was a massive, elongated mass of matted, decaying purple fur. The moment the flashlight beam hit it, the dragging sound instantly stopped. The creature froze, entirely wedged inside the tight plastic cylinder. David radioed his manager, but there was only dead static. Trembling, he walked toward the entrance of the maze to confirm what he was looking at. He stood at the bottom of the main slide, shining his light up into the suffocating darkness. The smell of old copper and rotting meat drifted out of the tunnel. Suddenly, an impossibly long arm shot out of the darkness. It had 4 padded, cartoon-style fingers, but the fabric was stained heavily with dark, dried fluid. The hand gripped the edge of the slide so tightly that the thick plastic began to crack. A deep, wet inhalation of breath echoed down the tunnel. A childlike, pre-recorded voice box triggered, warped by years of decay. It giggled and said, "Come play with us. We have been waiting so long." The massive entity violently launched itself down the slide toward David. He barely managed to dive out of the way before it crashed onto the dining room floor. The store was permanently condemned 3 days later. Story 3. Every employee of the franchise is forced to memorize the official roster of characters. There is the mouse, the dog, the bird, and the monster. But in 2001, a newly hired night watchman at a massive flagship location in Texas discovered an unlisted character hidden entirely off the public record. During his routine patrol at 3 a.m., the watchman noticed that the heavy velvet curtain covering the left wing of the stage was pulled back exactly 2 inches. He shined his light into the narrow gap. Staring back at him from the absolute darkness was a single, hyper-realistic, bloodshot human eye. Assuming it was a trespasser, the guard drew his heavy metal baton and violently ripped the heavy curtain entirely off its rusted tracking rail. But it wasn't a human. Standing in the hidden alcove was a towering, emaciated animatronic figure dressed in a filthy, rotting clown suit. Its face was a smooth, featureless porcelain mask. It was not listed on any corporate inventory sheet. And as the guard looked closer, his blood ran completely cold. The mechanical joints were not made of steel. Thick, rusted surgical into what appeared to be heavily aged, yellowing human bone. The ambient hum of the restaurant died instantly. The smooth porcelain mask of the entity slowly split open vertically, revealing rows of jagged, broken teeth. It raised its hands and began to violently, rhythmically slam its metallic fists against its own face. The horrific sound of breaking porcelain and crunching bone echoed through the empty arcade. Through the sickening noise, a muffled, deeply human voice began screaming from deep inside the creature's chest cavity. "I am still in here. Do not let them turn me back on." The guard locked himself in the security office until the sun came up. When the morning manager arrived, the alcove was completely empty, and the corporate office denied the curtain had ever existed. Story 4. Body cam footage obtained through a heavily redacted public records request shows 2 officers clearing the main dining room. The building appeared entirely secure. There was no sign of forced entry. But as they swept the arcade floor, a single photo booth cabinet at the far end of the room violently powered on completely by itself. The bright, flashing strobe light of the booth cast long, terrifying shadows across the walls. The officers approached, their hands resting on their holsters. One officer slowly pulled back the heavy black curtain of the booth. It was completely empty, but the automated camera was actively taking pictures. The internal printer began to loudly whir, spitting a fresh strip of 4 photographs into the metal retrieval tray. The officer picked it up and shined his light on the glossy paper. The first 3 photos showed the empty photo booth, but the 4th photo, taken just a fraction of a second prior, showed a towering, grinning animatronic face looking directly down at the top of the officer's head. The officer violently jerked his camera upward. The acoustic drop ceiling tiles directly above the booth had been silently pushed aside, revealing a gaping black hole leading into the ventilation system. A heavy, metallic clanking sound began to echo from deep within the ceiling ducts. Whatever was up there was massive, and it was crawling incredibly fast. The officers retreated to their vehicle and called for backup. When a tactical team searched the ventilation shafts, they didn't find an intruder. They found hundreds of human teeth arranged in perfect concentric circles. Story 5. Where do the old animatronics go when they are finally, permanently retired? They aren't thrown in a landfill. The corporation maintains a highly classified, off-the-books concrete storage facility in the Nevada desert, designed to permanently seal the defective units away. In 2012, an independent urban explorer managed to bypass the heavy security fencing and breach the main loading bay of the facility. His recovered night vision footage reveals a massive, echoing canyon of rusted steel shelving. Thousands of decaying, dismembered animatronic heads were stacked to the ceiling. As he walked deeper into the suffocating darkness of the warehouse, the temperature plummeted. At the very end of the central corridor sat a heavy steel shipping container, wrapped entirely in thick, rusted industrial chains. A massive, yellow warning placard was bolted to the front. It did not say defective machinery. It explicitly warned of a Tier 1 biological hazard. The explorer stepped closer. The absolute silence of the facility was broken by the sound of slow, rhythmic, desperate scratching coming from inside the steel container. He slowly raised his camera to a small, dark ventilation slit cut into the heavy metal side. He leaned in, peering into the absolute void. A perfectly pale human face violently slammed against the inside of the metal slit. It had no eyes, only hollow black sockets, and its mouth was stretched in an impossibly wide, tearing smile. The entity did not roar. It whispered a single crystal-clear sentence directly into the microphone. It said, "The show is finally starting." The explorer dropped the camera in terror. As it hit the concrete, the lens pointed down the massive central aisle. In perfect, terrifying unison, every single decommissioned animatronic head on the shelves slowly opened its eyes. Hundreds of glowing red optics illuminated the pitch-black warehouse. And then, the heavy steel doors of the shipping container violently exploded open. The corporation claims the facility was destroyed in an accidental electrical fire the following morning. But the container was found entirely empty. And the footprint tracking leading out into the desert did not belong to a machine. They are no longer locked in the dark. They are out here, and they are looking for a new audience. The night is long and the shift is only beginning. Subscribe before the clock strikes 3.